Welcome in, welcome back. We're gonna talk about the thing. We are no stranger to talking about drama here. Just for context, let me pause real quick. I have nothing against Datto, so spoiler alert. Yeah, I'm not gonna talk trash about Datto. So if you're here for that, yeah, sorry to spoil it. I'm not gonna like fish you for like watch hours. Like I'm good on watch hours. So if you don't want to watch after that, I'm not going to trash talk that out. But we're going to talk about the drama today because again, one just for one, the first video we ever did was talking about Salta Grepo. Really high skill player, really great person. For all again, I don't know him personally, from what I've seen, a really great person in the community. We talked about Divinity and Divinity Nerf with one of our first episodes a while back, and so we're no stranger to talking about community drama per se, but we're not going to get into the drama. We're just going to talk about an outsider's perspective on what's going on, and hopefully, again, per usual, the goal of these things is to have some solid conversations, and so. Yeah, like I think we're in a spot where yeah, like we can talk about it. Okay, so let's just go ahead and get into it. But again, for folks who don't know, Scattered Thoughts are our weekly um, breakdown, rant, reflection type videos after a week of streaming, content creation, gaming with friends, and the Destiny 2 community. We just have a spot where, we just talk about things openly and then we invite discussions. But today we are talking about. That you know what, and I think that's my first point I want to kind of get off is we're talking about data. Allen Iverson. We talking about practice, right? We talking about practice. No, but we're talking about data. So all this spurred when Aztecross, another big creator, big name. Most folks in the if you've been around for a little bit in the community, Destiny 2 community, you know of Aztecross. Very popular content creator in the community, came out with a video that him and his team had been working on for I'm not sure the specific amount of time, but he had said for a very long time, so probably a matter of weeks, matter of months. But he really wanted to talk about the issues that have been going on for years at this point, but especially getting worse since the Witch Queen around Bungie and microtransactions, and the fact that like it all started off with just like cosmetics, but then just microtransactions have really just infiltrated into the game where like um it's really hard one to play the game. Like you really can't play the game free to play. Like that's like a whole different conversation. um uh and that was his point, and also I agree with that point. But you really can't play Destiny 2 free to play, not like you can with actual other games. There are a number of other games, even gotcha games that are based on like gambling mechanics, are really trying to get you to actually purchase things. For instance, I actually streamed and play Honkai Star Rail, which is from Hoyoverse, which is the same company who makes Genshin, for folks who are familiar with that genre of gaming. And so much of the game would go faster for me if I just spent money. Granted, it's money you don't have, but if I just spent money and invested it, I could get through the game a lot faster, level up my characters a lot faster. But I get access to nearly like it feels like 97% of the game, and it feels so good to be able to be a free to play player, play all the characters, do everything, basically everything in the game that I can without having to pay for it. Ideally, right, as gamers, as people who are interested in Destiny 2, like that would be the goal, right? Is it's like you can click download, you can play free to play and actually be free to play. Yes, will there be some certain things that are going to be priced out? But yeah, like there'd be those different things, obviously DLCs and some other content, but like overall, like people get that experience. And one of the things that came out of that video, again, going back to the point for clarity, as across the video, excuse me, was the fact that um, with the current model that Bungie has been taking, they've literally been squeezing the community dry with all the different microtransactions. And people, he's not the only one. A lot of people that I always tell people don't go on Reddit, but this will be one thing. Like if you did go on Reddit, look up Destiny 2 community and the microtransactions conversations. And yes, there are some trolls there, but also there's some people who were like legitimately like sad and turned off from the game because they used to be able. Again, you don't know everyone's financial status, but and I want to stay on this tangent too long, but it's just the fact that like it is an access. We talk about accessibility on this channel a lot, but it's an accessibility thing where like it used to be able to pay like what 30, 40, $50 for the game and get so much content, get the seasonal content, get the DLCs, get all that good stuff. dungeons, and then now you have to pay separately for a dungeon. If you want to get the dungeon key and all the access to that, you have to pay for silver. Silver is the in-game currency. It's not just cosmetics; it's some of the weapons that come with the season pass. If you don't pay for the season pass, you don't get some of these cracked weapons that go into the game, and so there's so much of that. And so people heard that hundreds of thousands. I don't know what the view count is right now, but by the time I watched it, I think it was like 100, like 30,000 people, and growing rapidly. And again, when I watched it, I think it was only out for like 4 or 6 hours. Don't quote me on that, but again, it just alluding to the fact that it was very popular, and being like a day or so removed from that. It continued to be popular, and what people learned from that very well thought out, very well scripted, very intentional. He was very clear on what his definitions were. Again, talk about Aztecross. He was very clear about like what he was saying. He had the segmentation. Even the video editing was a little bit different than his other videos, because like he really, you could see that him and his team really wanted to be intentional and clear. People watched that like 30+ minute video and then said Datto's the problem. Houseway. Literally, the man just spent 30+ minutes talking about how Bungie, and the decisions they're making are literally screwing over the community. And then people are like, yeah, El Datto plus ratio. And it was just the weirdest thing where it's just like, I don't know how lower we can sink in terms of the community's listening and reading comprehension. Uh, just the fact that like that's the decision that came from, that's again, not everyone obviously, but when we talk about community, we're talking about collectively, and we do have to be collectively accountable to each other, and being in a space where like that's what the community was like. It's like, hey yo, Datto's a problem. And it was just like so weird to me, because I was like, did I watch the same video as y'all? Did he put out another video? And come to find out, like, no, this is the only video on this topic, that of recently that he had talked about. Again, speaking about Aztecross, and that's where the community came out of. So the reason why we're talking about Datto, and kind of, I'll probably name this something after Datto when I get finished. But the reason why it's so interesting is because actually today, as I'm recording, Datto actually came out with his reaction to Aztecross's reaction, which I always appreciate it. I think he's been in the game long enough where he like knows when to comment on drama and when not to comment on drama. But he commented on it, and essentially, like said where he agreed with Aztecross, where he didn't agree, but like again, 90% of his Aztecross points he agreed, and also was kind of naming that like why y'all being weird. And again, that's my question as well. Is this like, how is it that people are so die hard after back to back to back weeks of glitches with the new dungeon, the dungeon boss health situation, both of which we talked about, server instability, people getting kicked out of the game, people just not even being able to log into game, the continued monetization of everything that's going on in the game. How are people looking at, and those are Bungie decisions. Content creators have nothing to do with that. Those are Bungie decisions. How do people listen to Dow's content? How do they listen to Aztecross? How do they look into any critique of Bungie and then come out with oops, drop my chapstick. But how do they come away from those things in a space where it's like, oh, the content creators are the problem, not Bungie? And again, I know we've been going a little bit hard on Bungie for the past couple weeks, but it's just like, partially, transparency, I am a little bit fed up with Destiny 2 right now. I still play the game, I still stream it, I still play with homies, but like, as like, I'm not gonna know life this game, at least in the current state, in the way that Bungie won't even address simple situations like microtransactions, like the dungeon boss health, like server stability. They can't even be mature. And again, I am very intentional about using the word mature, because I think there's a certain level of maturity of a company of Bungie's age not being able to communicate effectively with their community is a problem. Um, and to continue to be a space where like we can't even have, and again, I think Aztecross videos was fair. I think Datto's response to the microtransactions that he did in 2015, he did a reaction to that reaction, and he reacted to Aztecross's video. And I think all of that was like fair content. I don't think they're being unfair to Bungie. I think they're just being critical and providing a critique and offering solutions. Both of them offered very clear solutions. again, we would encourage folks for context to go back and watch both those videos. And it just comes to a space where it's just like, how are we talking about Datto? Again, I don't know. Just for context, I should have said this earlier, but I don't know Datto. Never slid in Datto's DMs. Never met Datto. You know, like we've never had direct interactions. I know of him from the his content that he makes, and I've watched his content for years. From his public persona and from his content, he seems like a decent person. But again, I don't know him personally, so that's kind of transparency content there. But also, most people don't know Datto directly, right? And whenever and again, I bring this up because it's not the first time this has happened. It's when it's happened recently where like there have been like some critique about Bungie, and then somehow Datto gets blamed. There's a critique about Bungie, and then somehow Salsa Grapple gets blamed, or like another content creator gets blamed. And for me, it's just like, why as a community is the comprehension level so freaking low? Like the bar is literally underground at this point because we can't even come together as like people are so down bad for Bungie. And again, they're for a last franchise, Overwatch, even with the Overwatch 2 issues and Overwatch going back on the word about the PvE side, people are still riding to the death for Overwatch. Call of Duty has been riddled with server issues. They still have not, really addressed a lot of the racism and transphobia that's been going on in the game for literal decades. But you have diehard people. So games, especially live server games, that have been able to, I'm trying to find the words, but essentially that have been able to kind of navigate year over year and survive. They have a kind of diehard legacy base. So if you're one of those people, I'm really not talking to you because like more than likely your eyes have glazed over and you're really not even interested in actually like having a mature adult conversation. But for the majority of the community, which maybe it's naivete, but I feel like there are a lot of community members who would be open to discussion if we just actually were clear about it. And my question to those people is why can't we consistently actually push Bungie to do better? Why can't, like, if people are like, oh well, we could boycott, but like a boycott wouldn't work? No, like if you actually read a book and like research boycotts from a variety of different fields, boycotts actually do work. And we're not just talking about like human rights, civil rights boycotts in other industries have worked, and there's a lot of data, there's a lot of historical evidence to that fact. But my point is the Destiny 2 community doesn't have discipline. It doesn't have integrity. It doesn't, I'll say this, it doesn't have enough integrity or discipline. It doesn't have enough of either of those to actually one commit to a boycott. Like they would boycott for like 6 hours and then give up, or just plainly enough like actually have integrity enough to like be critical and intentional about what they're trying to stand against with Bungie, right? So like people, maybe some people, actually, prime example, Lightfall, the Lightfall DLC uh boycott, if you want to call it that, I'll put in quotes. But there were a bunch of people, not a huge base, and we commented on it, but there were a group of folks who and just be transparent because again, integrity. I did a meme about this a little bit on stream. I can't remember which stream, but I did meme it a little bit about it because the people who were kind of leading the effort were a little bit toxic, so I was kind of memeing on them. But like at the core of the argument was like Destiny 2, Bungie is not committing enough resources to Destiny 2, especially their PvP. And if this is what it's going to be like, again, spoiler alert, it did end up being like, where they're just not investing resources, we get reskinned weapons and content, like I'm just not going to, I'm going to request a refund for my pre-order and I'm just not going to play Lightfall. There's people, again, I don't want to say a lot of people, but there are enough people where like it became notable on some blogs, some responses where folks are doing that. And as much as the people who are leading that I really didn't agree with, and they're kind of approaching it in a semi-toxic way, and I can understand why Bungie ignored them because they weren't really actually trying to be intentional. They're just trying to be like, F you, Bungie. While I can why we kind of like skirt around that. The core of the point, I can't lie. The core of the point, I actually do agree with the fact is like, if there was actually enough people being disciplined and having integrity around a boycott of Bungie, I do think they could have pushed Bungie to actually be better. Now, would it immediately have changed anything with Lightfall? No, because all of that was occurring like what, a month or two before Lightfall. Like game development takes months and months and months and years. So like nothing immediately in Lightfall was going to change, but like just think, we're now in season 21. There's been hella content. There's been hella time since the pre-orders for Lightfall began, and I am wondering, is like, what could have been changed now, like at this moment, like what updates to the PvP sandbox, what resources could have been committed if that kind of movement had gained steam. People were had a little bit more integrity, really weren't trying to like just like dunk on devs and like be really toxic, but actually like stand with like a point that had integrity. Is like, hey, you know Bungie's exploiting players, which again we're seeing here with, going back to the core point with the Aztecross and Datto pieces. Is like, the core point is Bungie is, and again, they're not using this language, but it's the language I'm using. It's exploitation. They're literally squeezing every dime and dollar that they can get out of the community for what? Other games. For, again, we haven't even, I'm working on a video. I'm still determining if I'm gonna actually put it out. But like, we haven't even really touched the fact that like Bungie is putting up job postings and having resources pulled for Matter. Matter is this other game that's supposed to be coming out in what, 2025, 2026. They're pulling resources to go to that. They already pulled PvP staff, money, other resources for Marathon, which is coming out right in the next year or so, next year to 2 years. So all these resources, like this cash cow, so to speak, Destiny 2, they're profiting off of dungeon keys, they're profiting off of DLCs. Stuff in the store like barely ever goes on sale. You can't actually be a free to play player because, like, literally, if you're a free to play player, you literally can do like two things in games, three things in games, like the initial intro quests, get like the most crappy gear and weapons, and then be like prompted to go buy the actual content. And so, them, you know, let me back it up a second. Overall, like, it's not going to end well. I want to be very clear about that. It's not going to end well at all. Uh, I will say that up front, and I actually have an announcement that I'm gonna put out soon, kind of on my thoughts about that. But again, we've seen this in other industries. We've seen this within the gaming industry. We've seen it with other games, and the signs to me are going in a specific direction. That, like, I think we just have to be, it's a hard truth. It's a hard truth. We can, love this game, and we can love the nostalgia, our very first raid, or when we ever, the first time we had a really good LFG, or like our best friend that we met on. And those things are valid. I want to be very clear. Those things are valid, not valid, but those things are valid, right? But to the core point, when we can't even have a clear, concise, intentional conversation, we're not even talking about like demands to Bungie. We can't even have a clear, concise conversation critiquing Bungie, saying that, hey, like, this doesn't feel good. This is driving players away. And overall, it's going to impact health. Because, like, what happens when Marathon launches? And again, as we said in the Marathon video, what if Marathon does well? What if Marathon does well? That's like the big what if. You think they're gonna pull some of those PvP staff back and put in those reasons? No. Destiny 2 is gonna continue to be siphoned for money and resources into the game if Marathon is a success. And so, being in a space where it's just like, it's frustrating to continue to run into these walls with the community. It's really frustrating to see people just, what seems like, intentionally misunderstanding the point that so many content creators have made and have been making for years, is that the state of the game is in dire straits. Is the game dead? No. You have not heard me say that. Have I said it's on a slow death? Is a pathway slow death? I think so. And appreciate folks who've been commenting on that video that we put out the other week. But I'm stuck in a rock and a hard place, because, like, I want to continue to make this content. I want to continue to engage in these discussions, but weeks like this, it's really hard. it's really hard to be in a space where people just can't even have common sense, like bare minimum common sense. The bar is literally underground. If you watch Kill Bill, if y'all ever saw, what was it, Kill Bill 2 or Kill Bill 1, where like she got buried underground, it's deeper than that. It's farther underground. The bar is so low. We are hitting tectonic plates. That's how low the bar is for the community right now. And I'm tired. I'm frustrated. It's sad. It's corny. It's disappointing. And for me, it's just like I just don't have the time, space, energy, mental capacity to like continue to like engage in spaces where people are just being toxic for no reason. Where it's just like, again, if someone has done something terrible, do they need to be held accountable? Do they need to apologize? Do they need to make amends? Yes. And we've talked about that. Ergo, the accountability episode that we went through. And I went through, like, if you ever want to know my philosophy on accountability, just as like a human being, but also like as a community member in Destiny 2, go watch that video. I was very detailed. I think it was like a 20-minute video. I was very detailed on my philosophy and why I approach content the way I approach it, and why I'm not going to be out here doing like shock content, like, that's not what we're going to do on this channel. There's other channels if you want to go do that, but for me, that's very fleeting. That content is actually not worth my time, and also that's not what I want my legacy to be about. I want the legacy to be about the strength of community that we can build together, and I think moments like these, I'm thankful for people who come into my DMs or like send me messages on whatever platform, and we have a good discussion. We have good conversation, or people come to stream. We're talking in chat and we have good discussion. I'm so grateful for those moments because I want to be able to humanize people. I don't think everyone's a troll on the internet. I do think the internet is like a weird place 99% of the time, but I do think there are some genuine people in this space, in this realm, and when we can't even like, let me try and say, like, but when we can't even just, yeah, and I hate to repeat myself, so I'll just say it again, but like, when we can't even just have conversations, when we can't have discussions, um especially in particular in this instance, discussions that are saying, Bungie, hey, you messed up, hey, you failed on this one, hey, this doesn't feel good, hey, I'm not down with this change. When we can't even have clear, honest, direct conversations with Bungie about Bungie, they continue to not only lean into these microtransactions and the other ways that they're exploiting the community, but ultimately, in my opinion, we end up in a worse spot because people are just going to continue to like see these things happen, not do anything about it, and then be like hands in the air. Why is the game the way it is? The game is the way it is because, like, as I've said multiple times, like the channel is basically built on this philosophy. The community has to be able to hold ourselves accountable as well as holding Bungie accountable. And when we are doing neither, like this, what's happened this week, I just think we're worse off for it. I have a couple other notes here, but yeah, I'm just gonna end it there. But yeah, like shout out to folks who are giving out some solid critiques and providing feedback, and really like being able to lean positively into community. But it's really disappointing to see how we are in a spot where we can't even have critique of Bungie without this Mr. Honestly, it feels, if you were into conspiracy theories, it feels like some Bungie staff member like started this drama and got it trending, because there's really nothing in Aztecross of original video that would push people to blame Datto. There's literally, like, he opens up referencing Datto's 2015 video, says how much of his video actually was low-key prophetic and came true, and then he proceeds to go into his own opinion about his critique of Bungie. How people turn this into like Datto was the worst person ever, I have literally no clue, and it's frustrating to be in a spot where yeah, just this is where we continue to end up. And so, have I given up on the Destiny 2 community? No. Am I tired? Am I frustrated? Am I going to continue to make space for myself to be in spaces that are actually sane and mature? Absolutely. So you might not always see me in different spaces that y'all will see me, off stream and things like that. But yeah, I'm going to continue to fight where I can. I'm going to continue to fight my battles. But currently, yeah, this week, yeah, I just can't sit here and watch people be foolish in this way when the larger point is so important. Pushing Bungie to be better, pushing Bungie to be better is so freaking important in this moment pre-marathon that if we don't get this right, mark my words, if we don't get this right, we don't push Bungie, they don't actually become accountable. They actually don't grow up and mature and become better to the community, and in turn the community is better to them. It's a mutual process. If that doesn't happen pre-marathon launching and marathon ends up being really good, yeah, Destiny might die. Because again, Halo Infinite, is the game still live? Yeah. Do I play from time to time? Sure. Like, maybe like once every 2 months. An update just happened, and I hopped on for a little bit. But that player base, basically non-existent. The value in playing, basically where there used to be international tournaments for Halo and it used to be peak. Where is it now? And honestly, I feel like Destiny is kind of on a fast track to, a reality very similar to Halo Infinite. But again, don't want to be a downer. I want to stay hopeful. I want to, hopefully see what goes on. But again, the community is such a big part of actually like getting this right and holding Bungie accountable, that like when we fight amongst ourselves and say silly, illogical, non-common sense, just things, I'm trying to say in the nicest way possible, when we're just doing those very foolish things, we waste time, we waste energy, we diminish morale in the community, and ultimately Bungie gets away with something that really wasn't good for the community and never is held accountable. And that's on us. Hard truth. Super hard truth. That's on us. When we don't have our act together as a community, that is on us. Period. But again, that's where I'm going to keep it for now. Would love to hear folks' comments and see where folks are landing with this. But this is where I'm at, and yeah, we'll see. We'll see if next week's any better, y'all. We'll see if next week's any better. Much love. Take care of yourselves, and we will see y'all next time. Peace.